Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast. Chad Hyams here, Bob Stewart there. Bob, how are you doing today?
Background envy, a little bit of that. This dude, I'm glad we don't do video either. This man is handsome, for Christ's sakes. He's just a handsome dude.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you.
Not you, Chad, you bonehead. I'm talking about our guest, but we'll bring him in a minute. I'm good, man. I'm excited for our conversation.
Yeah, Bob, before we get into today's conversation with our guest, Thomas, who's here with us, you're right. Good-looking guy, got a good-looking background there for you, all those things. Bob, I need you to stay focused, though.
Okay, I'm going to try. I'm going to try my best.
We know that you're already wanting to squirrel over here, and you want to ask him about that over there. We'll let you have some fun, Bob, but let's make sure we remember our listener.
All right.
So we want to welcome to our podcast the man, the myth, the legend, at least in Bob's head already, Thomas Williams. Thomas, welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much. Appreciate the compliments, and I'm excited to dive in as well.
Bob, doesn't he have that voice? You got like the handsome voice too, doesn't he? Like that voice just sounds smooth.
Jealous right now.
Right, Bob? It's okay, Bob. It's okay. All right, Thomas. I love putting our guests on the spot. I don't read bios. Those lovely bios you guys send, I don't read them. Cool. Introduce yourself to our audience. Tell them who they're going to hear from today and why Bob is this jealous.
Yeah. So my name is Thomas Williams. I'm a father. My family and I live in Denver, Colorado. For fun, what I do is I'm changing diapers of our youngest and getting ready for our third child who will be here in December. And then what I do for a living is I'm a leadership development expert and helping teams become more connected and cohesive with a little bit sprinkle of confidence there. And so originally from Northern California, small town called Vacaville, right between San Francisco and Sacramento. And if you're driving from one to the other, you'll stop and fill up on gas and you might get a double-double. So we do have an In-N-Out burger there. That was a claim of fame growing up. Like, we got an In-N-Out burger. And then after I left Vacaville, earned a scholarship, played football at USC from 2003, 2007, where we won 2 national championships, won 59 games, losing 6 by a culmination of 17 points. And then got drafted in the 155th pick overall to the Jacksonville Jaguars, spent 5 years in the NFL, had a career-ending neck injury that left me laying on the ground for 2.5 minutes, couldn't feel my hands, couldn't feel my feet. And then I got that nudge from the good old man upstairs saying, hey, I got a calling for you to do something greater. And a couple of days after I practiced my last practice in Tampa Bay, I went to church, and that's when God told me that I thought football was my purpose, but it was just my passion to lead me to my purpose. And now every single day, I get to use my gifts, talents, and past to do what I'm created to do.
Bob, I have my new best friend. Thomas does not know this yet. He's just become my new best friend, and I'm going to stalk him until he agrees. Wow. I mean, Tom, I love just your resume alone, and you come out with, I'm a dad, right? Yeah. That says so much about you as a person to say that's how you introduce yourself to our audience. Fantastic. I mean, we could hours, I think, on just what he said right there and all that. I just got to ask, my timeline might be wrong. I'm not a college football fan, truly. Were those the Reggie Bush years?
Yeah, so Reggie and I came in together. We were college roommates for 3 years. We could go on. I really got a firsthand experience on what greatness looks like, and then also the dedication and discipline of what it takes to be the person who you desire to be. So yeah, for 3 years, I got a chance to witness, college sports. I would say top 3, maybe top 5 players of all time.
Give that man his Heisman back, for God's sakes. It's insane what they did to him.
Yes. Well, I actually have it. The NCAA doesn't know that I have it, but anyways, and Reggie doesn't know I have it either, but I do.
All
right, Bob, you usually jump in with first question, so go.
You have young kids? It sounds like you have one on the way in December.
So 3 is our oldest, 1 is our youngest, and then due in December. So we will have 3 under 3.5 here in a minute.
I didn't have the third one on the way, but I've been in your seat with how far apart are they?
It's like 2 years, and then it will be like 18 months.
18, that's how mine are 18 months apart. 2 in diapers, lots of diaper changing. Those are fun times, man. Fun times. Yeah. Mine are 6 and 7 now, and still fun times, just different kinds of fun.
Okay, so Thomas, I'm going to put it to you. You covered so much in that intro of you. We've got a professional athlete We've got a guy faith-based. We've got a dad, right? And then, of course, the reason we brought you on was because your leadership trainings that you're going to do and help people. I was excited to have you come on when I think it was when I interviewed John Gordon last season, folks. That was a great interview. And John mentioned your book, Dig, Discover Your Depth, Determination, and Destiny Through Adversity.
Yeah.
You can get it on Amazon, folks. It'll be in our show notes, of course. We'll dive into where do you want to start sharing with our audience? What are you called to say, Chad, let's start here?
One of the things that I believe right now, Chad, it's interesting. I was on my way back from a workout this morning, and it's like, having kids, having a house full of voices and noise. It's very difficult to have stillness and quiet. And so one of the things that I think right now that I've been exposed to the most, and this has nothing to do with personal and professional, I really feel connected to men right now in the sense of there's so many dads, there's so many husbands, there's so many men that are in a space of everybody's throwing out this word anxiety, depression. And I was just having my quiet moment with myself and God of like, God, what is it that I can share with? What is it I can do? And how can I give to that demographic? And what hit me was that a lot of us are throwing out this word depression and anxiety as almost though it's like a Halloween piece of candy. Like, oh, there's a Snickers. Oh, there's a Three Musketeers. And I feel like most of the time people are misdiagnosing themselves with something. And so I'll give you an example of that. Playing football, I get to college. And all of a sudden I'm hearing everybody talk about, oh, I just tore my ACL. I just tore my ACL. And I'm thinking to myself, what is an ACL? I never heard of it. Maybe you might have sprained your knee in high school, but in college, everybody's starting to tear their ACLs. And one of the things that I love to talk about, and I'd love to get your thoughts and we can go back and forth on this quickly, is that, when we're going through something difficult, we might misdiagnose what it is. And so because we're going through something difficult in this season, in this time in life, we think about it as anxiety or depression. And I think I'm curious to know, are we misdiagnosing ourselves with that ACL diagnosis when it's actually just a sprained ligament? And so I'm using the ACL in the ligaments in the knees because I'm thinking about how many times have I gone through things in my life where I had this goal or I had this desire, but I misdiagnosed myself with, hey, this is the end block. This is the road that I'm not supposed to travel. And then once I got some good coaching, literally, in my life, they shifted my perspective and said, no, there's 3 seasons of this privilege of becoming a professional athlete. And the 3 seasons are pressure, purpose, and promise. In those 3 seasons, first and foremost, when you think about a privilege, one of the things that I've learned is that you go through a pressure situation. And so everybody, this is basically to the listener who is in one of these 3 phases. They don't know if they should keep going, get off the train, or switch buses, cars, go to an airplane. And so one of the things that I'm so curious about right now, and I'm determined to add to the conversation of how do you keep going when you're in a pressured season? How do you reflect when you're in a purpose season? And then what are you supposed to do when you're in the promise season? And I think those 3 go hand in hand to the privilege and would be a great conversation starter for this day.
Wow. Right? I mean, wow. Usually we're just telling bad jokes over here, Bob. I mean, what's your take? I see your pen is going, Bob.
Yeah. So pressure, purpose, and promise. I guess my first question would be, where do we tend to live most of the time? Like, can I live in these concurrently?
It depends on where you are in your life. You know what I'm saying? You talked about being like, I'll tell you, for example, professionally, I'm in a promise stage of my life. Personally, I'm in a pressured stage in my life. I'm a dad of about to be 3. My family and I just relocated from Los Angeles, where I had a name, a reputation, a network. I could pick up the phone or email or text message somebody and say, I want to talk with fill in the blank. And there was probably an 80 or 90% chance I could get connected to them. I just uprooted my family, and our household has just gone from a 2-income household to now a single income household. I'm in a pressured, But if you talk about building a presentation, getting up ready to deliver a presentation or a keynote or facilitate a workshop, I'm in the promise. I'm in the promise stage of that. I think where I'm in a purpose stage is we found out some not so great news when we found out we were pregnant with our third. And this is the first time that I'll publicly share this. And so as we were going to the doctor's visits, they ran additional testing. And what the doctors immediately said were, it's okay to terminate the baby. You guys can go home and try again. And this is without inclusive evidence, right? So I told you about personally, I'm in the pressure. Professionally, I'm in the promise. Now here's where it comes in the purpose in the middle. And so I looked at Taylor and I go, like, she has tears in her eyes. This is supposed to be the most joyful moment of a mom. I mean, not only is it going to suck to be pregnant, you can't tie your shoes, you can barely sneeze or do anything else, but the joy of starting with nothing and bringing a human into this world. The doctor has no compassion, no empathy, and says, we can terminate the baby right here, right now, and you guys can go home and start over again. Again, without evidence, there's nothing to back up your opinion or your statement. And so what I learned from that moment, we came home, we prayed hard, we prayed heavy, is that this moment was not to deter us. This moment was not to tell us to get off of this bandwagon and go in a different direction. This moment was to say, I need to strengthen your faith. So the purpose of that conversation, the purpose of this pregnancy, and now let me give you a little bit deeper of a story in that, is that right as soon as Taylor said, hey, we're pregnant, I go, let me name him. This is, especially if it's a son, we didn't know the sex, especially if this is our son, like, let me name him. I don't want to name him Junior, the third, the fourth. I want to name him something that's going to have meaning. I said, so our first two children, Bradley is our oldest, Brady is our second, Bryson Steele Williams. This is before we ever go to a doctor's appointment. I said, I know his name, Bryson Steele Williams. So in order for him to be what I'm calling him, he has to be defined, right? So you think about anything that goes through fire, when it comes out on the other side, it will tell you exactly what it is. And I'm like, that's the purpose of his name. Before he was ever given an opportunity to make breath on this earth, they were trying to take him out. He actually wasn't going to be given an opportunity to actually live out his purpose, to see the promise. And so what I was able to discover and understand is that the purpose for the late nights, the tears, the prayers, the uncertainty, that eerie feeling walking into every doctor's appointment, was because he has defined his middle name before he ever walked the face of this earth. The doctors were like, you can just go ahead and get rid of him. He doesn't count. Oh no, son, you're going to be much greater than even you know. And so from the very beginning, I'm already going to have a story to tell him of, you matter, you mean something. And anything that you go through, regardless of what somebody says, your life has more purpose than the circumstances. So that's what I'm talking about, the differences of promise, work, pressure at home, purpose with my son.
Okay. So one, wow, right? Thank you for being authentic and clearly who you are. Again, clearly my new best friend. When you said his name, I actually heard also if you took the first half of your last name, right? It wasn't just Steele, it's Steele Will.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We will obviously be sending wonderful thoughts, prayers your direction, but that, wow. And what a great description to answer what Bob started talking about. Bob, now, as he was going into that, you had a question from it?
Well, when you talk about what am I doing in these states, right? Pressure, I keep going. Purpose, I'm reflecting. Promise. Talk about the promise state. So like with your business, you're like, I feel like I'm in this promise state. What is the action there? It's like, what do I do now? How do I capitalize on this? How do I stretch it further? Like when I'm in that promise state, what am I doing?
Yeah. So what you're doing is you're actually in the realization stage. So let me give you a perfect example. Again, I've never shared this. So, so I started with the pressure, I've gone to purpose, and then I'm seeing promise. So when I was 18 years old, Miss Wara, who was our government class teacher, right before we get ready to graduate, she says, okay, your assignment for the week, you have no homework. You just have one assignment. Where are you going to be in 5 years? Now, here's the prompts. What education do you need? 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 What education do you What training do you need? Where do you need to go to school? What's your average salary? Cost of living? I mean, there was like 8 to 10 different things. So I go home on Monday. I come in on Friday. I've studied this thing like every single day. I knew I wanted to play professional sports since I was 7. I stand up at the front of the room and I say, I'm going to play for the Miami Dolphins. I'm going to have gone to USC. That was already in the bag. I signed my letter of intent. I was already going. That was an easy slam dunk one. I'm going to play for the Miami Dolphins. I'm going to wear number 51. I'm going to make $222,000 a year. I'm going to drive a CLS 550 Mercedes-Benz, and I'm going to have an Old English pit bull named Duke. Right?
You still remember that to this day, that those were the things you said?
Because I'm going to tell you why I remember them.
Okay.
Because we graduated in June. That was in May. In April of 2008, almost 5 years to the day, I got drafted to the Jacksonville Jaguars, which is 345 miles away from Miami. I made $295,000, which is $72,000 difference. I wore number 53. I got the CLS 550, and I didn't get the dog. Oh. But I remember to the T, wow. But here's the thing. In college, I had to go through the pressure. There was a purpose to see all of these things become a reality, because there was the purpose for me to go through these things is because my teammates gained that confidence and respect in me. I was the most inspirational player and I didn't start. I was the person who sat in front of everybody before every single game and I got us pumped up. We couldn't start the game and leave the locker room until I pumped us up. So even though I wasn't a starter on paper, I started the game. And so that's how I was to cut my teeth to become a motivational speaker later. Because for me to talk in front of 105 alpha males, it's nothing for me to talk in front of 2,500, 5,000 people now, like in that. So I'm coming back to you, Bob. Okay. So I'm taking the long way around. That was the promise for me. Now I retire from the NFL on a Thursday. I take a flight from Southwest from Tampa after I just re-injured my neck for the second time within an 8-month span. I take a flight, Southwest flight from Tampa all the way back to Los Angeles. And I'm writing down on a piece of paper, what is it that you want to do for the rest of your life? Yellow pad. I said, I want to travel the world and inspire it and get paid to do it. That was in July of 2012. I had my first speaking engagement in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, September 2012. In June of 2023, I traveled the world to go to Bali to be their keynote speaker for the Indonesian Human Resource Summit. From 2012 to 2023, I have now said I've traveled the world and I've been paid to inspire it. I'm in the promise. Now I can tell you about all the times I jumped in a car and I paid to go speak at a high school. I paid to go speak at a church. I paid to go speak at a first grader Red Ribbon Week. Do not do drugs. I've paid to go to those places. That was pressure. The promise is that when you speak to the you at 12, the you at 18, the single mom who was just like your mom, that's the purpose, that you've gone through all of these situations in the pressure. The promise is when God sits there and goes, see, I told you. I told you. So when you write down and you're 345 miles off, when you're 2 jersey numbers off and you're $72,000 off, oh, okay, that's the promise. But you'll never see the promise if you never visit the purpose. And then if you never withstand the pressure. But the thing about it is that once you get to the promise, now it's your obligation to turn back and share with somebody else the same thing that happened. But if you don't, you feel as though if you're in the pressured situation that you're going to be off kilter, that you're supposed to stop, that you're not supposed to keep going. But the pressure is actually part of the privilege. Like the pressure is part of the privilege. My pressure, give you 3. I was in college at USC, and these will be real quick. I tried to quit my first month at training camp. I'm in the stands at USC. I call my mom, and I'm like, it's over. I got to quit. I can't do this. I'm my mom's only child. I'm her baby. She loves me. I said, Mom, I got to quit. I got to come home today. She says, nope, you can't. And that took everything for her not to allow me to quit. She says, if you run from this, it will become a habit. But if you don't, it will become your identity. It will become your identity. Like that's the part of the pressure. Like, oh, if you quit, you've just given away the privilege of the pressure. The second one was when my coach told me, I got a position for you to play. Great, coach. What is it? Like, is it the starting quarterback? Is it the starting? He goes, nope, special teams. I go, coach, nobody wants to play special teams. He goes, exactly. If you do what nobody wants to do with a crazy amount of enthusiasm, excitement, and energy, and with passion, then you're going to stand out as though you're this much better. You're not this much better. You're just this much more excited to do it. And the last one was when my coach told me that every single dream, every single vision, this is Ken Norton Jr. who tells me this, every single dream, every single vision, I'm on the same level because we put these things on pedestals. So I walk into them. It's right before my senior year is getting ready to start. Up until this point, I started like 8 or 9 games. And as you guys know, there's like 13 or 14 games in a season.
Right.
So I'm starting 8 or 9 games. I'm like, it's over. It's done. Like it was great. Thanks so much for coming. It was cute to have a dream. You got a scholarship out of it. Like go find a job. I walk into him. I said, hey, for this year, just let me have fun. Like if I show up and I give you effort, cool. If I don't, like, don't ride my backside. I said, coach, what's the reason to fight for something if you're never going to give an opportunity to win? If you can't win, that's my exact words. He puts down the marker because he was writing on the chalkboard. Or the whiteboard or dry erase board. He puts down the marker. He turns his head, looks to me dead in the eyes. He goes, if you give everything you have to this dream and everything you have to the NFL and they don't want you, then they don't deserve you. When he told that to me, that just took the weight of the world off of my shoulders and said, they're not interviewing me, I'm interviewing them. And if I give you what I got and that's not good enough, then you guys aren't worth my time, my body, my sacrifice, my discipline, all of these different things. So that was the pressure. So though all of those situations produce purpose. Then you get to the NFL and you look back and you go, oh yeah, my identity is I don't run. I don't quit. I'm not gonna quit because coach isn't gonna give me the starting position. I'm not gonna get the playing time I want. Oh, okay. I'm gonna do the things that nobody wants to do, and I'm gonna do them with excellence. I'm gonna do them with excitement. And the last one was when I stopped playing that day, and I sat there and I couldn't feel my hands, couldn't feel my feet for the second time. I go, y'all not worth me. Y'all not worth what I have to offer. See, so many times we feel as though we're not worth it. If I don't get it, I'm not worth it. No. If I give it everything I got and I still don't have it, it's not worth it to me.
Yeah, for sure.
So those were the 3 things. And so that's just the part about the pressure that why we have to keep going. So again, in every single stage, there's definitely an action that we have to take. There's a responsibility and an accountability. But then also there's an obligation once we get to it to tell the promise. We're going to see the promise, then we have to tell it.
That's so good. I think many of us see it and then we just live with it, or we don't share it, right? Like we don't turn around. For you, was that like?
But why don't we share it? Why don't we? That was such a good point, Bob. Why don't we share it, or why don't we tell it?
Maybe it's the scarcity mindset. We're like, I don't know if I shared everybody this, and then everybody would know how I did it, and it would make it harder for me to do it again. I'm not sure why. Maybe there's some level, Thomas, of it feels like bragging, maybe, or something. I'm not sure why we tend to hold those things and not share. I mean, you run into this. Do you?
I think it's more. I think it's more so.
You didn't?
No. So here's the thing. At every single juncture that I've had, so if I've learned something, as fast as I've learned it, and this is why mentorship is so important. So mentorship is a couple of different ways. There's somebody who's pouring into you, so they're above you in status and in age and in what they've accomplished. There's also a side, so somebody who's a peer, right? So you guys are kind of playing, tennis back and forth. And then there's somebody who you're responsible to pour that into. So as soon as you learn something, you're supposed to teach it. I remember when I got to college, the first time I went home, I went up to the high school and I said, hey guys, listen, this is the drills that we're going to do. I went to the JV, the varsity, and I said, these are the drills we're going to do. Not because I'm an expert, not because I've mastered it, because right now I'm getting poured into. And the only way to continuously keep that thing going back and forth as far as reciprocity is as soon as you get taught it, your obligation is to teach it. When I learned from John Gordon, like I'll never forget, John started talking about vision in two ways, telescope and microscope. And so I heard him speak in Los Angeles one night, and I went to USC because at that time I was an adjunct professor teaching incoming freshmen of how to, live this college life and navigate it properly. I taught microscope and telescope the next day. And that's why I feel as though what happens is there's a block that we don't teach it, because I don't think it's internally. I think it's that we just are selfish. I think it's a selfish thing. And then I also don't think that we take the information that we're getting on a constant, I don't think that we're taking it as importance. As soon as we get taught something, we have to go share it. And people are going to show up in ways that we get to share it. Like, as soon as I learned different investments for children, I told my friends, as soon as I learned it, hey guys, you know about these 529? You think you learned about this in custodial accounts? Hey guys, did you learn anything about these insurance policies as far as like death benefits, cash benefits? No, I didn't know it. And the same thing they're doing to me. So now we're playing that tennis. And so then I'm asking the dads who are 40 years old, 60 years old, 70 years old, kids that are a lot older. Hey, what are some things that you did? Oh, that worked. What are some things that you didn't do? Oh, shoot. Okay. Let's start doing that. Then I start pouring into the younger people because it's happening to me. So again, the pressure, if you never go through that pressure, you never allow for somebody to teach you. I would never allowed my mom to be able to teach me in that moment. And talking about if you run from it and quit, it will become a habit. If you stay and fight, it will become an identity. The second thing my coach told me about, hey, find out what other people aren't willing to do, master that. Oh, where does that show up in speaking? I talk to speakers all the time. Man, I'm not getting on a plane to go fly over here to go speak for this much. Well, I will. Why? Because that's the special teams. That's the way, that's the Red Sea that's going to part and allow me to get into the NFL. Okay, you know what? When you have this big time dream, big time vision, what my coach did is he minimized it. He shrunk it. It wasn't this grandioso big thing that's bigger than me. Okay, we're the same size, which means that if we're the same size, if you can do it, I can do it. If we're the same size, you're not greater or bigger than me, so I don't need to be afraid and I don't need to be scared of you. And so with that same talk and with that same theme, we got to look at these things in a way that it's all part of the privilege. Privilege isn't identifying the vision or the goal or the destination. The privilege are the stages and phases that come with it.
I love that idea of like these things we get to have a purpose or we get to experience the pressure because of the privilege. Like it's a part of it,
yeah.
Right? It's not like the thing we're fighting to try to get to the privilege. It's literally we're privileged to even be in this situation to go have that pressure on us.
Yeah.
Okay, Thomas, I want to ask, you're a leadership guy. That's your thing, right? And one of the things at WinMake give, we're health, wealth, leadership, and legacy. So let's talk leadership.
Yeah.
Okay. Thing I heard you saying is you were the guy that went locker to locker, basically, before every game to get them going, get them ready. You were leading these guys. You might not have been Reggie Bush on the field leading the way Reggie led, but you were leading this team as you were going. What are some techniques, some tips that came from that our audience, who many of which are leaders, whether it's leadership in their life to their family or leadership to their business, that they should be adopting, hearing from you, from things that you've learned from what you were doing at that time?
Great. So there's two ways and types to lead. And so using the example that you talked about is that I knew my players individually. We would have conversations in the locker rooms, in the cafeterias, in the dorm rooms. This is one-on-one. Hey, who did you get off the phone with? Oh, your little brother? How often you talk to your little brother? Every night? Oh, I can use that. I can use that with leadership. And then all of a sudden with the team, what did we go through throughout the week? This was a crappy week. Coach made us just run 20 gassers at the end of practice Monday, Tuesday, all the way through Friday. So I'm going to use that when I'm bringing up the team. But when that one player drops that pass, in the middle of the second quarter and you can see his head go down and go, oh crap, we lost him for the game. I got to go up to him and I got to start talking to him about his little brother that he was telling me about 2 months ago, who looks up to him. Hey man, you know your little brother right now? You know what's going to be so cool is when you catch that game-winning touchdown, he's going to tell all his friends you're his big brother. So when you use motivation factors like that, see, most of the time people only lead from the big crowd. All right, this is our annual sales meeting. These are our projections. This is the outcome. These are the numbers that we want to reach. Okay, but we have to remember that numbers don't drive people. People drive numbers. And so when we can learn that, we can understand that, then we motivate and inspire the people that actually make these things go. Like I can sit there as dad and I can say, hey, everybody, listen, you got a last name. All right, this is what your last name means. This is what I did for the last 38 years. This is what you need to do for the next 38 years. But right now I have 3 women. Thank God I'm going to have a son, so he's not going to leave me in the dust. And I'm just always a ladies' man. But right now I'm a ladies' man. So I need to understand what those ladies in that room, doesn't matter how old they are, how young they are. They're all different. And so even though this is what I want our household to stand for, this is what the culture of our house and our last name means. But I need to understand, in order to lead them, I need to lead them individually because people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so when I go into my daughter's room and I'm just saying, okay, you know what? Put a bow on my head. Let's talk to Elmo. You want to read Elmo for the 75th time? That's great. You want to know why? Because I'm worried about the connection, not about what we're reading, not about what we're doing. So when leaders understand this 2 ways, is that there's a big group that you're leading, there's a smaller group, and that's the individuals that you're leading. And then what we need to do is we need to connect better. Right now, we are connected because we have devices, because we have meetings, because we're seeing each other, but we're not connected. Connection happens in 2 ways, stepping into their world and inviting them into yours. So many times from a leadership position, I don't really want to talk about what I did this weekend because that's not ethical. That's not right. It's not, don't be vulnerable. But when you talk to your team, let them know that your kid just had a birthday party this weekend. Let them know how it went. When they ask, how was your weekend or how's your day going? Tell them. And when you ask them theirs, listen to what they're saying because they're going to hear a heck of a lot what you're saying as well as what you're not. And so many times we just listen to what somebody said. How's your day? Good. All right. They had a good day. Keep going. That's not what they said. Ask them what was so good about it. Because in that answer, they're going to tell you what was so good or maybe what wasn't. And then those are ways that you're able to lead as well as being able to be there for each other. I'll kind of hit on this piece too. I'm working with an organization right now that's having a lot of turnover. People are leaving, going to other companies and other organizations. And what I had to tell them is that people don't leave companies, they leave management. And the reason why they leave management is because they didn't feel as though they were valued. They didn't feel as though those people cared. So they're going to easily go wear another jersey. They're going to easily go park in another parking spot, not because that company's better, but because they felt cared for and valued.
I mean, you can't fake this stuff either. Right? And the people that you lead know if you give a shit or if you don't.
If you don't.
Right?
Yep.
And if they think you don't, they're just biding their time.
Yeah.
In your world, essentially.
They're looking for the next opportunity starting now.
It has to be authentic. I love that idea of just like you knowing the little brother thing with the guy on your team, right?
Yeah.
Like that's so powerful. Even hearing you, and I don't know if that was a real scenario one time, right? But like even hearing you say that, picking that teammate up and saying, hey, you're going to catch that next one because your little brother's going to be out there at recess. Like that gets me emotional. Even being like on the sidelines of this made up, and maybe it was real, but of this conversation, like
Bob's just emotional, Thomas.
There's just a certain level of authenticity to that you can't fake. You actually have to be a leader that cares about your people like that for those things to even, Thomas, for you to remember them 2 months later, to be able to use them as leverage with that person, not in a bad way, right? But in a motivating, organic
because
way.
It's the difference between manipulation and persuasion. Manipulation is for my benefit. Persuasion is for yours. And so anytime I know about you, the more I know about you, the more I can help you get there. But so many times we might use that manipulation for our benefit. And then that's for me to get there and leave you behind.
I love that. All right. We are talking with Thomas Williams, dad and author and motivational speaker. Check out Dig, discover your depth, determination, and destiny through adversity. We'll have the link for you in the show notes. Bob, I'm looking at the clock because it's one of those things I got to do. Before we get too close to the end, I'm going to give you that one question. One.
So, Thomas, you played for Pete Carroll. He's our coach up here. I think he's been a phenomenal leader of our organization. What? Give me one leadership lesson that you took away from playing under Pete Carroll.
Ooh, my best.
I know you told me this before. We were doing a little pre-interview. You're like, "Hey, go read the book, and if you have a question after that, you're going to give me your phone number. I'm going to call you." So I am going to go read Pete's book, but just pick one, and I'm sure there's 100.
Yeah, man, the most powerful story. So Pete Carroll gets to USC, and this is well documented. He was not the fan favorite, right? And so when you go to university, you're at the demise of the alumni, the one who write the big check, as well as the athletic director, school president, blah blah blah. So Pete comes in, not the fan favorite. He knew that. So one of his first practices, this is in 2001, right before they went on a historical run from 2001 to 2009 before he got to Seattle. So Pete says, okay, tonight, everybody meet us at not the Oakland Coliseum. That's where I grew up, the LA Coliseum. So everybody goes to the LA Coliseum for practice. They got cleats on. He says, there's a big tarp in the middle of the field. He unveils this tarp. There's a big rope. He goes, offense, pick me 5 of your strongest, biggest players. Defense, do the same. So you got 5-on-5. He goes, old school tug of war. So they start going back and forth. They blow the whistle. Now offense wins. Offense high-fiving each other, pumped up. Defense is pissed. Do it again. All right, they do it again. Best 2 out of 3. Now defense wins. All right, guys, I guess we're a 50-50 team. We're going to leave. Now, as you guys both could imagine, in an alpha male environment, no. It's either us or them. Pete's so smart. He knows this. So he goes, defense, take your 5 guys, put them on the offense side. 10 of you guys pick up the rope. Pull it. Everybody pulls it. They're looking at each other, looking at him. How was it? Coach, it was easy. Exactly. From here on out, it's going to be as easy as that. We're all going to pull in the same direction at the same time with the same amount of force. Whether it's in home game, you're pulling together. Whether it's a away game, you're pulling together. When you're walking in the hallways on campus, you're pulling together. Rule number 1, protect the team. How do you do that? By pulling together. The same force, same amount of energy, same tenacity with everything you got.
There you go, Bob. A tip from Coach Carroll through Thomas to you. All right, Thomas, we're coming up to the end of our time, which has been fantastic and flew by. So last question. I don't care whether you repeat something or whether you share something completely new that's on your heart that you just want to share that we didn't get to ask you about, whatever that is. Take 2 or 3 minutes. Give us the last thing everybody should walk away from this episode remembering. I love it. He's taking the time and thinking about it. Folks, we didn't get dead air there. Nothing went wrong. Thomas is actually taking a time. Everybody usually just throws something at me. He wants to make sure he's giving you the right thought. So stick with him as he's making sure the right message comes out.
Yeah, the thing that keeps coming to me is that if you understood what was on the other side of your adversity right now, you would get excited in the moment, which would change the trajectory of where you're going. If you could see it.
I love that. How do you
dig? That's how you do that, Bob.
Well, touche, Chad. How do you make that a more crystal vision? We all have some adversity that we're tackling. Most of us are doing it silently, by the way.
Because I understand
run when we hit adversity. How do we have, like Bob saying, that clear image of what is literally waiting on the other side if we just kept going?
Because here's the thing: adversity never comes to deter you; it comes to make you stronger. So, I'm, in the spiritual realm, I always get excited. So that's what the dig is. So the first part about dig, the principle is something is either preventing you or pushing you. Number 2 is if you don't have the example, find the proof. And number 3 is get excited in the quitting moments. And so in those quitting moments, you have to get so excited because most of the time, The only thing that's happening is that you're getting ready to push over that last domino, and greatness is about to happen, and you're going to actually experience it. So the next time you deal with something, Bob, same thing, Chad, the next time you deal with something, and you're talking about that crystallization, what I want you to do is I actually want you to get excited. When you start to get fearful, when you start to get uncertain, when you start to get either anxious or depressed, and I want you to actually get excited, where you go, woo, okay, grass green, sky blue, baby, got a lot of work to do. All right, come to work, go to work. Just because you at work don't mean you're going. You start talking to yourself. And then it actually starts, you start to feel it, and then you start to live that out. It's almost as though, I don't know about you guys, but for me, when I was a baseball player, I was like, today's the day I'm actually going to hit a cycle. And people go, how do you say that? How do you know that? Because I haven't had an at bat yet. I could actually hit a home run, and I could hit a triple, a double, and a single back to back to back. I actually could do that. And so as you're living your life, if you can have those same responses and those same things that are implanted and impregnated into your brain, then you'll actually start to do the things that is actually necessary. Because if you don't go there with excitement, with enthusiasm, you just think this is going to be another day and it's just going to be a regular moment and an opportunity, then you're going to act that way. And those are the results that you're going to get. 1 + 1 only equals 2. It will never equal anything else. But as soon as you change that thing in the middle, subtraction, multiplication, then that's when you get a different result. Those two numbers on the front and the end won't change. But as soon as you change that thing in the middle, that's when what you'll have is a change result.
I love that. I mean, this is like the message I try to drive home to my boys all the time. Like, every good thing in life is on the other side of that fear, anxiety, depression, like all those things that adversity. Essentially, you're running into adversity, and everything great in life is right on the other side of it. Thomas, you're awesome, dude. I don't know if Chad doesn't make you his new best friend. Like, watch out, we're both on the prowl for a new bestie.
No, I appreciate you guys, man.
Forget new best friend, Bob. I'm actually considering new co-host. I'll put that right out there, Thomas.
Dang,
if you're open,
Bob,
you could actually make this a video. You can make this a video
podcast for Bob now to see if he can push through and step up on that, or if he runs away. Thomas, on behalf of our Win, Make, Give audience, wow. This is going to be an episode I know I'm going to listen to a few times. I know Bob's going to be sending me his notes. He's the guy who sits there and takes notes. I'm not the note taker in the moment. I like to just listen. So we love everything you shared. We appreciate it, folks. Check out the link in our show notes for the book. Go on Amazon, find Dig by Thomas Williams. It's going to be a read that's worth it for you. We know it. Thomas, we will be sending prayers, good thoughts to you and your family as things move forward. We look forward to meeting Steele at some point in the future.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys so much, man. This has been awesome.
It has been. And until our next episode, as always, folks, do good.